Some of you may know who I am. If you're around at the theater, you'll see me haunting this place from time to time. Helping out Len or helping out Perry in one project or another. Or occasionally I will perform, but I don't do that very much anymore. My experience with audio, video, and cinematography and photography are about 40 years. I started when I was very young. So Perry said, oh, you know, we're going to do a Vista Vision thing, you know, that would be cool if we could do a little thing on what is Vista Vision? And I thought, well, yeah, I can probably do that. So here we are. Yeah, don't clap yet. So Vista Vision, or really what we refer to as like widescreen, a lot of us are familiar with widescreen stuff. That story starts really at about the end of the Second World War. The troops came home, and we went through what we would call a population explosion at that time, right after where the fighting men and women returned home. America was really going through kind of an economic boom at that time, so we were prosperous, and of course that's what you do. You go ahead and have kids. And so that's kind of the setting there. Let me go back here one. These first few slides are out of order, so I kind of have to go and pick and choose them. And so we went through a big baby boom. And for you younger folks that are out there, you probably are familiar with the term, okay, boomer. That's literally where it comes. So all these people up here that you see, they're boomers. And I'm not talking about this older nurse right here. She's not, it's these guys right here. These are the boomers, not her. Actually, ironically, she's only 29. So I'm just joking around how old she is. It was a different time, folks. So, and at that time, let's go back here, there was another population exploding around that same time, and that was the television. Television came out roughly in the 30s, and as the boomers were raising their kids and they were busy, it was a lot easier just to stay home and watch TV. And it may not be obvious to you now, but at that time when you went to the theater, it was kind of like watching TV. It was just bigger, right? Maybe louder. So Hollywood was faced with a crisis, and they really didn't know what to do. They needed a way to attract people back into the movie theaters. They need to make it a different experience. So that's 20th Century Fox was the one that really answered that call first. They were the ones that produced something called CinemaScope. And this was basically the child of, that came out of the mind of the executives at Fox Studios. They thought, well, if we could make it bigger and wider, because that's how we see, like we don't really see it a lot vertically, we see side to side. If we could make it more immersive, that would draw audiences back in, and we could make revenue again. So they licensed a technology that was called hypergoner. You can still see that in the photography community. You'll see a lens that's licensed hypergoner. It was invented by a French guy, Henri. I can't remember his last name. It's very French, but he is French. And Henri, he invented it for tanks during World War II, so they could look out safely with a narrow, vulnerable area, but see a wide range of field of view. So the executives thought, well, we could put that in front of a camera and film with that, right? And then stretch it back out in a movie theater, and now we'll have this wide experience. Well, it worked, and people really loved it. And it started to surge, and if you look at kind of how that works, basically, if you see here, there's the lower screen is how it's filmed. You'll notice there's approximately 4 film perforations on there. It's squeezed, but in the theater, they would stretch that back out. And I actually have a period projection lens that you can see here. If I put my light on it, this is the type of lens they would put on a projector that would stretch things out. And I don't know if you can see that. Let me just see if I can get my flashlight on. There you can kind of see it's oval if you look at that lens. So anything that comes in that's squeezed, that comes through the back of this lens will get stretched back out. And of course anything that's wide that goes through the lens will get squeezed the other way around. So ironically you can use this as a camera lens. So the technology for this was pretty simple. You use a special lens during filming and a special lens during projection, and you get this big wide picture. That was in 1953, and it really worked so well that the other studios thought, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to compete? So Paramount had their own idea. They come up with VistaVision, and it was a little bit different. Instead of using a special lens and a special projector, they used a special camera. And what they do is, instead of, we've all seen movie cameras, right? The guy's doing this, and it's got the film magazines, and the film's coming down, it's being exposed. Same one thing with the projector when you were in high school, right? Or some of us, a lot of people, sorry, listen, some of you, people as old as me used to see these things called projectors that they were a lot bigger and noisier than this one. But the film would come vertical. So what they did was they turned the film on its side, kind of like a regular film photography camera, an old film camera when you ratchet. Instead of going vertical, they went sideways, and instead of using 4 perfs like we just saw there, perforations on film, they used 8. And it doubled it. And this was an astounding increase in the fidelity and resolution of the picture. It looked amazing. CinemaScope and film looked good, but VistaVision was pretty mind-blowing the amount of detail. In the movie that Kent Theater's going to be playing, The Searchers is one of those films shot in that, and it's got wide vistas, and the stuff does look pretty incredible. But one of the issues that they had with it is this camera, although it's hard to tell the scale, but that thing's about the size of a golden retriever. This thing is big, and it is heavy. And everything that you do on a set with big and heavy stuff, it's just crazy expensive because everything takes more time. This one's a little more advanced, it's a little newer, but most of them back at the time were contracted through Mitchell Photography, and so those Mitchell VistaVision cameras, they were just monumentally huge. But the results were pretty amazing. And so this is what we're seeing here is, you know, the old film would go this way with 4 perfs, and now they're running it sideways, and you get twice as much film, which gives you twice as much resolution. And there was no question about which one looked better, no doubt about it. And even like Super 35 millimeter, Super 35, it shows you the difference here. This is a scene from Begonia, which was shot in VistaVision, by the way. And I'll circle back to that. But you can see how much more film space that you get. So this stuff was pretty incredible. And then as those baby boomers got older, there was something else that became a cultural phenomenon after the television, and that was cars. Cars, you know, had really kind of taken over the landscape. But by the time those boomers had gotten to the age of driving, a lot of these cars made in the 38 and, you know, those 30s, they were affordable cars for teenagers to get. So this was a monumental cultural change to give independence to young people. And by this time, by the 50s, really VistaVision was kind of wiped off the scene. CinemaScope had won the war. There was no question about it. They aggressively licensed the technology. A lot of people were using it. But the principal reason is VistaVision looked better, but CinemaScope was just bigger. It just was more immersive. So at the end of the day, it kind of dwindled off. So all these guys are now going, all the boomers are now in their teenage years, they're going to drive-in theaters. The movie industry is doing well, and VistaVision's kind of out of the scene. But one of the guys that were caught up in this whole thing was a young director called George Lucas. And here he is on the set. He was obsessed with cars. And I don't know if you've ever heard of George Lucas, but certainly you might have heard of someone called a movie called Star Wars, which what really put him on the map. The reason why he was able to make that movie was the movie American Graffiti, which here he is very young here filming that. And the irony being there is that he didn't shoot Star Wars, well, it was a 20th Century Fox. He was definitely using CinemaScope as their technology. Here he's using a Panavision camera, which we'll talk a little bit about, not the camera with the lenses. It was shot in CinemaScope, but they had to do a lot of like highly detailed effects work. And regular film wasn't going to cut it. Like you couldn't do the kind of detailed work that they needed to do the Industrial Light, Magic Island, Dennis Muren's group, they wouldn't be able to do that with regular 4x film. They needed something super high resolution that they could work with to do the effect shots. So what Lucas decided to do was bring VistaVision back from the dead, and you'll see there's large equipment here, large filming equipment. All those effect shots that you see in Star Wars, that was all shot in VistaVision. So VistaVision got a new lease on life, and that was the standard from that point on. I mean, I don't know if a lot of you aren't old enough to remember, but there was sci-fi movies, and it was like, you know, a little thing on a string with smoke floating behind it, and then, you know, it's like, wow, really impressive. And then Star Wars hit, and it blew everyone's mind, and it revolutionized the industry. But that was in no small part to the contributions that the technology that VistaVision offered, that they were able to do that. But it's still used today. One battle after another was literally shot in VistaVision. And one of the things that critics really try to talk about is when they're talking about this, the VistaVision is really, really clear, but it's still organic. Like the equipment that I use to shoot stuff, it's very clear. But I spend hundreds of dollars on filter to make it look a little worse, so it looks a little more organic. And like this lens here, just to get some perspective on what we're talking about. A prime lens for a movie camera looks about like this. You'll see it has gears on it. This also, you can do, you know, focusing remotely and adjust the iris remotely. So this is what's called a prime lens. You put this on a cinema camera, and this is, you know, it's effective for filming. But CinemaScope lenses, modern ones, look more like this. This is the lens that I use when I'm shooting anamorphic, as a matter of fact. And this was a stunning revolution when this lens came out, because of how cheap it was. These lenses are expensive. It's one of the downfalls of CinemaScopes is lenses are extremely expensive. So any idea how much this, you know, Perry, how much I paid for this lens? $275,000. No, it's $3,200, and that's dirt cheap. It was revolutionary. Most of these lenses, cinema lenses that are anamorphic lenses, they're the bargain barrel ones start at like 15 grand. They go up to $100,000. The Panavision lenses, like the ones that we just saw in the behind the scenes photo there, they're not for sale. You can't buy them. Panavision doesn't sell them. They're virtually priceless. And one of the reasons why they do that is they don't want you to buy the lens, take it apart, reverse engineer it, and then compete with their quality, because their quality is out of this world. So nobody buys a Panavision lens. You rent them from Panavision. When your movie's done, you send them back. That's it. But anyway, so VistaVision comes back to life, and people really like that feel. Here's Begonia. I don't know if this is a newer movie that just came out. This was also shot. It's kind of interesting if you watch it. It does have a really different kind of feel to it. Everything looks a little bit different. Like again, it looks really, really clear, but it's very organic. And this movie has stunning cinematography. Whether you like the movie or not, or how it ends, which I won't spoil, it does look really stunning. I was pretty impressed. So even today, VistaVision lives on. Our friends here at the, I gotta skip over one. Whoops, go back. Thank you, by the way. So they're gonna play Searchers, which was interesting because I wanted to confirm that it was VistaVision, because you told me, oh, we're gonna play the Searchers. So what did I do? I went out to ChatGPT, said, hey, is Searchers shot in VistaVision? It was, no, absolutely not. It was not shot in VistaVision. I go, are you sure? Because I'm pretty sure it is. And so I so I asked Gemini. I didn't go search Google, I just asked Gemini, hey, was it shot in VistaVision? Oh yeah, absolutely, it was shot in VistaVision. So I got two competing AI models arguing with each other, and I keep pasting their comments back and forth. And ChatGPT stuck to its guns pretty well until I found the actual Warner Brothers senior colorist mentioned, her name was Jan Bordeaux, who actually did the color restoration for this version of the film, discussing the literal camera negatives being horizontal 8 perf, and I posted that in there, and ChatGPT goes, all right, you know, I guess maybe you're right. With this evidence, I guess it's hard for me to keep arguing that it wasn't VistaVision. And then I said, oh, and there's also this movie poster, and I said, look in the lower right-hand corner. It literally says VistaVision right on it. So it finally conceded at that point. But anyway, there's going to be this will be one of them. I do, encourage everyone to come out and watch a movie shot in VistaVision. Begonia is a good one that at least if I don't know if you like that kind of movie, but the visuals are pretty interesting. But that is all I have. Thank you.